Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for attending this morning's LETG breakfast briefing in relation to Project Immerse. Can I introduce myself? I'm Adam Pacifico. I know some of you already. Also in the room from the Immerse team, Kevin O'Leary, Mick Toyne, towards the back of the room, Charlie Swan from Charlie Swan Associates, and also Dave Churchill. I'm going to deal briefly with why we created Immerse, and then we'll also talk to you about what Immerse can achieve, how it actually works, and we'll talk briefly about the SJB case study. In my 20 years of being a barrister and 12 years of being within this sector of learning and development, there's been an appetite, and there continues to be an appetite from you, the firms, for dynamic, innovative training focused on business acumen of your fee earners on behalf of your clients. Also take into account that as providers perhaps always been guilty of ring fencing technical training, black letter law, and then ring fencing competency-based training into personal skills, soft skills. But the reality is that when the fee earners are in the workplace, they deploy those skills together. With that in mind, part of our research was focused on the consumer, and that's the all-important client. They want lawyers who are accessible, easy to talk to, practical, commercially minded, with the ability or understanding of strategy and implementation, not just solely focused on legal processes. They want the whole package. It may not surprise you either that from our research, 87% of law firms have a major client at risk. And risk management has for many years, for a client, been a key priority and a differentiator as regards who they will select as their professional services or their legal services provider. So it's important. And then there's the stick, because on the 6th of October of this year, the new SRA handbook comes to town. And I've put here on the screen for you 2 of the 10 principles which jump off the page for me as relevant to Project Immerse. Principle 5, which is about the standard of service to your clients, and Principle 8 as regards a robust set of financial and risk management processes and procedures. So as you move to outcomes-focused regulation, at the heart of that is where Immerse fits in.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Adam. What I'm going to do is briefly outline to you what it is that Immerse does and how it does it. And if I can give you one thought, and that is, think flight simulator for business. Because that was our aim when we were developing Immerse. We were trying to develop something that wasn't just a bespoke training product for the clients, but could also keep pace with the changes in the training whilst it was actually being delivered, so that it could be flexible and responds to the way that the delegates deal with the training issues that they're faced with. And because we build this in collaboration with the client, it directly addresses the business needs of your organisation and reflects the management style and culture of your business. I'm going to show you how it actually works. Okay, so we establish syndicate rooms, pods as we call them, and we divide the delegates into small groups of between 4 and 8 people. And we put each syndicate into a room separate from the other, and we can monitor those rooms via remote CCTV and audio, so we can see and hear what's going on. We feed into those rooms a videoed scenario, which is made specifically for the training event. And then we set them objectives, which are to identify what they're dealing with, what their priorities are, and what actions they're going to take, for example. Then we watch how they deal with those tasks, listen to what they're doing, and depending on their progress, we can feed interventions into those rooms. So it might be further video material, it might be an email, a phone call, or a role actor turning up. At the end of a period of time, which is determined, we bring the syndicates back into a plenary room. And what we do there is we debrief what's taken place, so that if one syndicate is performing better than the other, actually this is the time when everyone learns from each other. And you will always find that Syndicate A has thought of things that Syndicate B has not picked up on, and vice versa. Well, the plenary session debriefs the first session, and we look at levelling the playing field and then briefing them again, sending them back into the room. The pilots so far have been about 3.5 hours in length. That includes the syndicate sessions and the plenary sessions. And we've considered that to be the optimum time to get the maximum learning opportunity from the scenario. In a nutshell, that's how it works. We're going to show you actually how it works in a moment, but first of all, I'd just like to hand over to Adam, who's going to take you through the case study of the delivery of the pilot to SJ Berwin. Adam.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you very briefly about the case study that we carried out for SJ Berwin. We actually ran 3 separate sessions. It was a collaborative approach right from the word go, and the focus or the brief that we were given from SJ Berwin was in relation to a dawn raid scenario. Because we've seen as a sector, there's been far more intervention from the regulators into the sector. They are carrying out investigations with more rigour, and it may well be that your blue chip clients, those executives, those directors, those CEOs, find themselves in the criminal justice system being treated in the same way as someone who has been dealt with as a street robber or a burglar. And that's a challenge for everybody. Let me talk to you about the architecture, because we spent many months working out the architecture, and the best way I could describe that is like scaffolding. You can take bits out and you can put bits in. Now, there are bespoke elements both before, during and after. Before, we worked with the competition and litigation departments, with the PSLs, with fee earners, and indeed with partners. Now, I don't want you to worry and think, is this incredibly labour intensive? No, it's as labour intensive as you desire, because the architecture exists now for us to get on with the brief, if that is exactly what you want. During, the client, or SJB in this instance, decided how much information we would give delegates prior to each of the sessions taking place. They, to add to the reality of the situation, created intranet checks that could be done. Those were interaction checks as regards client database information, and also conflict checks. But we also created a dark website, and what I mean by that is there is a website that goes live each and every time Immerse runs, so they can actually trawl through internet pages and they can access emails, bios of particular staff members, and they can follow up with some of those inquiries. So again, adding to the reality aspect of it. In relation to bespoke after the event, for SJ Berwin, we provided them with a 16-page debrief report, and that allowed them to use it perhaps as a coaching, mentoring, individual or team feedback tool. Something else that we can do is to record the sessions. That's not mandatory, that's if you want us to. And then we can provide you with a DVD or a video file, electronic video file, and that may well be very useful to you if you think about using Immerse as a selection or evaluation tool. Interestingly though, SJ Berwin started a series of confidence questionnaires which were handed to the delegates before and to the delegates after each session. And they were asked a series of questions as regards where they would have pinpointed their abilities in relation to a certain criteria. After the 3 Immerse pilots, we were seeing 90% confidence shifts in trainees, 60% confidence shifts in associates, and 30% confidence shifts in partners. Add into that, delegate feedback reached 85% in favour of this particular mode of training. So ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do now is to move you into a taster session so you can actually experience it for yourself, and we're going to split you up so we get some of you in the syndicate room and some of you in the control room. So I need some volunteers. Who's going to actually volunteer?
Mrs. Higgins, how are you coping? Have you spoken to Terence since he was arrested?
I'm afraid I'm not sure what's happening at the moment, but we are assisting in any way that we can, and I'm sure this will be sorted out
Okay, yeah, thanks ladies and gentlemen for the energy and enthusiasm in which you took part in that taster session. I hope the experience was useful to you, and again thank you very much for taking part, whether you were in the control side or in the syndicate room. Okay, that just remains for me to thank you all very much for attending today, and thanks again to SJ Berwin for hosting this event this morning. Thank you.